Hello, everyone. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Heidi. How are you?
I am great. It is a monumentous day. We are here in person due to modern science. We can be in the same room and 6 feet apart.
So we just want to say thank you for adhering to guidelines and helping us move back down through the tiers.
Yes, we have our red tablecloth in honor. You know, maybe you're watching this in a year, but if you're watching in real time, we are celebrating to be. We are happy to be here together with you at Family Table Talks to dig into a really interesting topic that affects our 0 to 5-year-old families quite a lot, and in ways we don't always think about. We are going to pull back the layers on homelessness.
Yeah, homelessness is a pretty touchy subject, especially here in Tehama County. But homelessness within the 0 to 5 population looks a little different than what you would normally think of homelessness. So what we think of homelessness is that person that's living in the park, or they're living under a bridge or in their car. And although that's a piece of homelessness for families that we serve, it looks a little different because it's actually a silent epidemic here in Tehama County. And when we talk about homelessness, we're actually talking about the McKinneyVento Act. And it's a piece of federal legislation that was written into law in the mid-'80s during Ronald Reagan's presidency. And since then, it's kind of morphed. But basically what it does is it protects the education rights of children who are experiencing homelessness. And so when we talk about homelessness, we're talking about families who are doubling and tripling up. So there's like 2 or 3 families living together in a place. Families who've lost their jobs and had to move back in with their parents. Families who are living in hotels and motels. Families who are escaping domestic violence, and that's a huge one. Families who are living in a trailer behind their best friend's house, and there's no running water or electricity. So there's different and families and children who are part of migrant families. They're actually considered homeless under McKinneyVento as well. And so the interesting thing about homelessness is, when we talk to families about it, because we do a screener with our families, that they won't tell you that they're homeless because they don't really know that they're homeless. They have a roof over their head, and they're fairly safe. So to themselves, that's not homelessness, because we all have this stereotypical idea of what homelessness looks like. And what I've just described is not it. So we have to explain to families that actually, by the McKinney-Vento Act, you really are homeless. And because of this status, you actually qualify for quite a few programs here in Tehama County.
And it's really important because it's not about labeling, and it's not about being identified, but rather about getting support for your family. And the reason the McKinney-Vento Act exists is because when you're experiencing things like doubling up and maybe being in a, like you explained, the trailer behind your best friend's house, there are different levels of stress that layer into that. And there's different levels of just like skills and things that you have to take care of that really pile on. And so you need extra support. You need somebody checking in and making sure that that child can get access to as many buffers as possible. Because what we know is that more stress for children and families actually increases your likelihood that you can have health barriers later on. And so the more buffers, the more support, the more supportive relationships that you can have access to, the better off you're going to be. You've heard us talk about ACEs before. We're both very passionate about that.
Oh, yeah.
And this is just another way to think about how you can get support. So rather than think of it as a stereotype or a label of homelessness, it's really about, well, am I experiencing something that I could get some support, and maybe that would make it easier for me or my family. So sharing with your children's teachers, sharing with schools, sharing with any kinds of services that you have, your living situation can kind of open up some conversations and some doors, and maybe there's some behavior that you've been really wanting to talk about your child, and this allows you to have that conversation.
Yeah, there's 2 really great resources right off the top of my head that I will always ask families to check out. One is the Path Center here in town. They have an amazing amount of resources to help people get back up on their feet, especially if they're experiencing homelessness or they're very low income. They've got computer labs and they've got like a little food pantry and they've got resources and referrals and all kinds of stuff. But the other one, especially if you have a child that's 0 to 5 or especially 3 to 5 and then also K through 12, is Stormy King is the foster youth homeless liaison here in Tehama County. She works out of Tehama County Department of Ed, and she is a wonderful person who has a real heart for helping families get back up on their feet and getting them the resources and referrals that they need to be able to make sure that they themselves are successful and that their kids are successful.
And it's so interesting because we all experience hard times, but we also all have a great ability to buffer ourselves and our families. And some of those things you might not always think about, like, oh, I'm having to go through this economic hardship, I'm having to double up. Why does it matter if I go for a walk daily? But that outside nature time, that extra exercise time, the time that you could take to connect with your child and go for a walk, all those things are what we actually know will be able to kind of help rewire your child's brain and better deal with that stress. So it's also really important to take that moment and think about, who do I know in my life? Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody else that is going through this type of experience and maybe is experiencing homelessness. And what could I do to reach out and provide a buffer for them? Is it going for a walk with them? Is it suggesting that you could cook a meal together so that you can have a high nutritious meal? What are those things that we could do? Because it really does just take that one extra relationship to make a difference when you're dealing with a hardship like homelessness.
Yeah, absolutely. The relationships that you build, even if it's just one person that you can trust to talk to, even if it's your child's teacher or home visitor, doesn't even have to be that. It can be your enrollment specialist, because we've had that happen before. But anyone that you really feel like you can trust and build a relationship with and just have those conversations with, it really is the step in the right way, especially when you're living in a situation like being homeless. So we have lots of resources actually here in Tehama County to work with families who are experiencing homelessness. Another really good one is Tehama County Community Action Agency has the deposit assistance program. It's open now until later this year. And then also, if you're a CalWorks participant, they actually have some funding to help families get into housing. So if you're participating in CalWorks, make sure you talk to your social worker. They can definitely help you out with that.
And then just don't forget to always call or text 211, because there are changes in programs and availabilities and resources. And if you're just wanting to figure out like how you can plug in, or maybe you're in a doubled up situation and you're going to be that way for a few more years, but you want to be able to kind of connect and get some more buffers for your children and families, 211 can connect you to those things. So just ask the question and they can always be there. And of course, we can't not talk about our home visitors. We have many fantastic home visiting programs in Tehama County. We have a great home visiting collaborative. And so we'll put a couple of the numbers below. And if you're interested in finding out more, you can always call School Readiness and they'll link you and get you to the home visiting program that really will best meet your needs.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us today, for sitting through this really touchy subject. It is part of my heart working with the homeless, not just within the 0 to 5 community, but within all of Tehama County, regardless if there's a situation. And I'm always looking to way to better our community so that everybody has a brighter future, not just our littles.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for Family Table Talks and making time for what matters, conversation, and our kiddos.